Hello, everybody. Today I will prove that the Planet of the Apes, the Time Machine, and the Man Who Fell to Earth are all related, and then later on in the video, I will explain a subgenre that they can all be put into that I will name. But before I get into that, let's just get rolling. We're going to start with the Time Machine, and specifically the 1960 movie. And before we go into depth, let's just go back and think of what's going on in during the 1960s, and specifically in America. So around that time, we got the Cold War that's still going on, and the Civil Rights Movement. So pretty two important things that are going on. So now that we got the stage set, let's go into the time machine. So during this movie, George goes to the future and meets the Eloi and the Morlocks, where it's pretty obvious that you can relate that to the civil rights movement because the Eloi are like the underappreciated class, while the Morlocks literally feed off of the Eloi. But this movie focuses more on the Cold War, which is pretty interesting. And Roger Berger points out something important when the Eloi are in the dining hall, um, and that's that it's built on what looks like or can be associated as a parking lot. Berger says this symbolizes the car or consumer culture of that time and a little bit of today's time, and how teenagers are zombie-like and march when the air raid sirens go off. And this is one of the main themes of the movie, and that's the working together and being productive. The movie is clearly kind of calling out teenagers and saying, "Hey, you guys need to quit hiding and like do something." Um, and this really like comes to a peak in the movie when one of the Eloys finally punches the Morlock to help our main character. So jo- Jonathan Bignell also agrees with the need for human and societal intervention, um, because he says, like the cinema spectator, the time traveler George sits on a red plush seat and watches a marvelous spectacle, and the journey into the future depends on a machine, a technological apparatus, rather than magic or dream. And that's another theme that you will see throughout the video, and how the evolution of technology leads to a reset in evolutionary progress rather than vice versa. This leads into the second movie on our list, Planet of the Apes, specifically the 1968 one. It is pretty easy to understand what the movie is all about, but I think I'll let John Wills explain it. The movie presented a chilling allegory on the subject of racial conflict, highlighting the injustices of America's slave past. This connects back to the civil rights movement and the way earlier settlers treated non whites. Emma Back also brings up an important detail. The film's horses in blackface gain the double stigma of racial animals and inferior technological objects. This means that the apes are only racially discriminating against humans, and how other animal species are above white humans. This is all important because the only way that George didn't get lobotomized is by the help of other apes, the good ones. This again plays into the idea of this teamwork and helping each other. But also, this movie talks about the Cold War because the reason humans got in their state was caused by all out nuclear warfare. Uh, but now we're going to move on to our last movie, The Man Who Fell to Earth. And this was in 1976. That's when it was made. This movie is less known than the other two, but I believe it's probably the most important, at least in the aspect of this video. This movie has a clear sign of segregation with Thomas the Martian and humans. Thomas does amazing things and helps out many people in his life throughout the movie, but is eventually betrayed by the people around him. And in this amazing article that was posted by John Izod, he says the urge to betray can also arise from envy, the, from envy of perfection and the desire to reduce someone thought to be superior to one's own mediocrity. Like the medics, Bryce and Mary Lou are driven by this impulse. This can be related to the civil rights movements and how even though colored people could achieve these great things, they were still like shunned out and unrecognized as intelligent or smart in any way. The important distinction between this movie and the other two is help. Thomas gets none throughout this movie, and that shows because he gets betrayed by the people he loves instead. And Thomas goes on his mission back to Mars all by himself, and when he gets captured, still nobody helps him. Graham Fuller points out an important symbol that occurs throughout the movie. One of the first things he sees on Earth is a decrepit locomotive that triggers a memory of the futuristic little engine he boarded as he set out on his journey to the present. It's a train to now, but ultimately to nowhere. The one Roeg's glittering film implies we're all on, and it's already left the station. This can be connected to the Cold War because of humans' progression and how it will all lead to total annihilation, where nothing really matters. This easily makes it the most depressing movie of them all. And finally, this final bit is gonna be discussing how this all can be contained into a single subgenre. So these movies have a lot of things in common. There's one lead male character, an exploration story that changes to survival halfway through. They're all science fiction, and how the focus of each movie changes abruptly about halfway through. The plot focus. In Planet of the Apes, it changes from George escaping the apes, to being seen as equal to an ape. In The Time Machine, it changes from George seeing the future and the doomsday he sees in the future to helping the Eloi escape the Morlocks. And in The Man Who Fell to Earth, it went from Thomas finding a way back to Mars to Thomas just escaping his prison, his laboratory. But what makes it all important is that they all try to achieve the same thing. And that is that time or space doesn't matter. Racism happens throughout life, no matter what. And we must learn from our mistakes. Even if decades or millennia pass, it doesn't matter because segregation will be around in some form or another. And how everyone must fight together rather than alone. I'm going to name this subgenre the SAR genre, named after the bomb, because these movies express the dangers that can occur from isolation, and how these movies showed the fear of too many technological advancements, without moral guidelines. In conclusion, I believe that The Time Machine, Planet of the Apes, and The Man Who Fell to Earth all share similar themes of working together to stop racism and segregation, and they share similar themes of the inevitable destruction of the world if the Civil War was to continue. And I believe that all of that combined makes them a subgenre called SAR genre, as I have named it. So, thank you for watching and have a good rest of your day.